If you're looking for bedtime stories, you're in the wrong place. But if you've got a brain wired for patterns and a gut that knows something's off, pull up a chair and let's analyze this case. Somewhere, nestled between the steel blue Atlantic and the rust-stained rooftops of Saldanha Bay, a little girl with a shy smile and bright eyes vanished without a sound. Her name was Joshlin Smith, just 6 years old, a first grader who still colored outside the lines, who still believed in magic and that monsters only existed in her nightmares. But what happened to her wasn't a fairy tale. It was a nightmare, woven in whispers, bartered in back rooms, and wrapped in the brutal silence of a community too familiar with poverty and too abandoned by justice. She didn't slip through the cracks of society. She was pushed, sold, and as you'll soon discover, perhaps never meant to be found. In a country battling a rising tide of child trafficking, this case pierced the skin of the nation. Because Joshlin didn't just vanish, she exposed something feral, something systemic, something many still refuse to name. What you're about to hear is not easy, but it is necessary, because when children disappear and we do nothing, the monsters learn we're willing to look away. This is the story of Joshlin Smith, not just her disappearance, but what it revealed about blood, betrayal, and a country's fractured conscience. I'm Virgil Gray, and this is where the trail begins. February 19th, 2024. A Monday like any other in Diazville. The sun rose late behind a curtain of fog, and the sea breeze carried the scent of salt and iron down the fractured back streets of Middlepost. In a makeshift shack, built from tin, tarp, and quiet despair, 6-year-old Joshlin Smith reportedly woke up not feeling well. Or at least, that's what her mother told police. By sunset, that same little girl was gone. Kelly Smith claimed she had to leave for work and that her boyfriend, Jack Annapolis, was watching Joshlin. But his account changed with the tide. He first said Joshlin had been sick and was asleep. Then he claimed she went outside to play. Then, that she had simply vanished. No witnesses, no screams, just silence. Within hours, her mother reported her missing. But something was off. Police noted Kelly's demeanor lacked urgency. Neighbors whispered about strange behavior. Community members claimed she wasn't crying, she was pacing. Some said she seemed relieved. And when a child goes missing, time is everything. The first 24 hours? Critical. But in Joshlin's case, they were chaotic. Volunteers combed the bushland. South African police deployed K-9 units. Their navy launched search vessels. Even the president's office got involved. Posters with Joshlin's face were plastered across the Cape. Online campaigns surged. Hashtags trended. For a moment, it felt like the whole country was watching. But behind the scenes, authorities were already shifting focus, from finding a lost child to uncovering a crime.
People say that she just vanished. No, people do not just vanish. Everybody sees something. Whether it's stuck in your mind and you forget about it and later on you remember, but somebody must have seen her somewhere. Somebody must have seen who she was with. Somebody must have seen her playing somewhere. It doesn't matter if it's going to make people angry that you saw it or what. It's your obligation and your responsibility as a citizen of this country to take whatever evidence you have or whatever information you have and take it to SAP so that we can find her. Because if we keep things to ourselves, it can be your child tomorrow, it can be the neighbor's child tomorrow, it can be anybody's child, it can even be adults. 2 years ago we were searching in this same area for a young man and we never found him. We still haven't found him. The search is still ongoing. But Joshlin can be found if everybody just remembers where they saw her. I saw her playing with A, B, and C's child, that we can ask everybody and that SAPs can do their job so that we can find her. But nobody just vanishes. There's always a trail. There's always someone that has seen something, and sometimes people are scared to bring out what they know because we're terrified of the consequences of when we speak. We don't know how people are going to react. We don't know how the community is going to react. But it's important and it's vital that as community members and parents ourselves and brothers and sisters and uncles to take that responsibility and say, I saw her there, and then we can look there. But now everybody just assumes she vanished. Nobody just vanishes. There's always some way that we can find them. We just need to know where to search.
Days into the search, bloodied clothes were discovered near a dumping site. Forensic teams rushed in. The public feared the worst. But testing would later reveal the blood wasn't Joshlin's. A false lead, a cruel one.
They say they have expanded the search for the missing girl, dispatching drone operators and search and rescue dogs to the area. The clothing has been sent to forensic laboratory for analysis.
The latest, as you mentioned, is that clothing items have been found on this open patch of land in Saldanha Bay, and just over the hill behind me is where Middle Pos is, where the informal settlement Joshlin Smith, 6-year-old rather, Joshlin Smith was last seen on the 19th of February at her home there. And as you mentioned, that particular update from SAPS, including that the search continues and that no arrests have been made. But we understand that late evening yesterday, there were a number of community members from Saldanha Bay, neighboring communities as well. They were part of the search where clothing items were found. I'm going to go to the gentleman that actually found clothing items in this little bush here, and is perhaps going to detail and explain to us what he saw and basically describe the clothing items to us. I'm joined here by Waleed from Delft Track and Trace Missing Persons Unit. Waleed, if you could just, point to us here in this little bush, what you saw, what you did, yeah.
Okay. We were about 200 members of community and track and trace SAPS members and people from Cape Town, coming from people of Cape Town to come and search in the area. Of the lead that we got, after we were on our way back to Cape Town, we received the lead and we just returned. So as I was walking through the bushes, I saw two pieces of items lying in this bush here, pressed in there. So I took it out with a piece of stick. I laid it out. It was a blue and white shirt and a pink track. It was like a track pants. So it looked like it was. I found it strange because it looked like someone that is small, 5 to 7 years old. And the shirt was a big person's shirt. It was a man's shirt, so what would that two items be doing together? I just placed it aside, went on with my searching. I came back, picked it up, took it to one of my members of Track and Trace, Ibrahim Sardin. He confirmed and he said, okay, let's take it to SAPS, let them confirm that it is blood. After that, SAPS took it away, the clothing. They came back and they confirmed that it is human blood, and it's not confirmed as yet if the blood does belong to Joshlin.
As days bled into nights, hope began to decay. And then, a breakthrough. Not in the form of a clue, but in a confession. A neighbor would come forward with something that would crack this case wide open and confirm what the community had feared. As the week wore on, Diazville turned into a pressure cooker. What began as a search for a child was starting to look like something far worse. A performance, a cover story with holes big enough for the truth to leak through. The Western Cape Police Service escalated resources, K-9 units, drones, even boats. Every shack, every field, every inch of coastline was combed. But the deeper they looked, the more one thing became clear. They were looking in all the wrong places. A cash reward was offered. Public outrage grew. News trucks parked outside the family home. But behind the scenes, investigators were already changing course. They weren't just looking for Joshlin anymore. They were looking at the people around her.
A week after her release from custody, Pumza Sigaka of Saldanha Bay in the Western Cape has broken her silence. Until last week, the 32-year-old mother of 3 was one of the accused in the disappearance of 6-year-old Joshlin Smith. Sigaka, who claims that police tortured her to reveal the whereabouts of the grade 1 pupil, says people close to Joshlin need to tell the truth. Newsroom Africa's Nasipi Same reports.
Wabuza into yobana kubhuta uyenzeka kanjani into kanje uyazi uba ndimithi. Athi ke ngokubhuta bendingena choice, I don't have a choice. So ndashiyeka ndizi-question mark into yobana inoba yintoni naloo nto leyo. Ubhuta ndinako ukumsola. Because the time sisithi makuyokhala umntana waye wachopha yena wathi udiniwe. So yaye yandothusa loo nto leyo uba ungathi ukulahlelwa umntana wakho uthi wena udiniwe ungumzali. Wayengekukhe kwakuthiwa usepolice station. Kwaleyo yasimangazisa into yobana ibe ngukheli yedwa usepolice station nashiyeka endlini engumzali.
Sigaka, who resides near the Smith's family home, believes that those closest to Joshlin know where the missing girl is.
By early March, suspicions turned into warrants. 4 people were arrested. Joshlin's mother, Kelly Smith, her boyfriend, Jack Annapolis, a family acquaintance named Steveno Van Rijn, and a Sangoma, a traditional healer. The charge? Human trafficking. According to police, this wasn't a spontaneous disappearance. It was premeditated, deliberate, a transaction. And the intended buyer? Someone with a very particular request, a child with fair skin and perfect eyes. Joshlin, they said, had been offered to a Sangoma, not for adoption, not for rescue, but for parts. Her mother, Kelly, allegedly told multiple people that she could make money off her child. She spoke of buyers, of rituals, of value.
Joshlin's whereabouts remained unknown until the 7th of March, when police announced the arrest of 4 suspects, including Sigaka and Joshlin's mother, Rukwal.
Ngala Monday, ndizokhwaza ndibuliswa ngumama wakhe wabegqitha. Noba kwaku-2-4, wabegqitha eBemarikane ephethe igesi ehamba nabantwana. Besithi, hayi makalimo, then ndakroba nje efestileni, ndabe ndibabona uba bayagqitha azange ndiphume, zange ndiphinde ndibabone xa bebuyayo. Ngala mini ndibone uStefana ehamba nomnye umfana wabe yena ethengisa ibhegi nento yoxova, into yomixa. Because bangabantu abaye bafumana izinto phaa etipini then bazithengisa. So ngala mini wayethengisa laa bhegi ebrown encinci. Then ndawatsaphela umeza wam othengisa izikonzi. Ndathi makeze.
Sigaka claims she was coerced into confessing after hours of torture by police.
Bandibizela kwenye i-room, noba i-body room. Then kubuzwe ke ngoku into yobana ndimgqibeleni uJoshlin, ndiyamazi na uJoshlin. Ndibe ndixela ke mna ukubana ewe, kube kusithiwa mandithethe ke uba kwenzeka ntoni na. Ubhuta noStefana bathi umntana bamsisa kum ngebhasi 1. Ndibe ndithuka loo nto ke mna kubana hayi andiyazi mna loo nto leyo. Ke kwasukela apho kuthi mandithethe inyani. Bandibetha ke phantsi kweenyawo nasemadolweni, bandifaka neplastiki. Galela amanzi bandifaka iplastiki. Athi mandithethe inyani. Ndiyabuza uba mna inyani ethini leyo. Kuthiwa xela uJoshlin kuthiwa ebeziswe kuwo. Ndandizixele sisomba nxose ndife uba le nto andiyazi. Ngoba nangokukhona omnye usisi wade wathi masimfake kulaa mtshini, wayihleka komnye ubhuti wathi hayi uzawufa. Ndingatsho ndithi babendinyanzela into yobana ndivume into endingayaziyo ngokwendlela ababesenza ngayo.
One neighbor, Laurentia Lombard, came forward. She claimed Kelly had confessed directly that Joshlin had been sold. The story gets darker, more chilling. Kelly reportedly attempted to sell her daughter months before. Another time, she lowered the price. And as officers dug through phone records and testimonies, the threads began to weave a pattern of calculated betrayal.
Another police breakthrough. 32-year-old Laurentia Rens Lombard was arrested and appeared in the Vredenburg Magistrates Court on Monday. She has 2 children with Sigaqa's cousin Ayanda, who's currently in a place of safety after rumors swirled that he had a hand in Joshlin's disappearance.
Naye nalwazi kakhulu naye. uRenzi kalokubona ithi ngathi babetshaya bonke ngalamandi. Leyo into andinaloyiko la because ke nabahlali bayaya into ba into ezikanje angeke ndizenze.
As investigations and the search for Joshlin continue, Sigaqa says the primary focus is finding the little girl.
Kangiba bekusiya ngami bendibawela i-counselling. Even abantwana bam noba ndingayaphi na kuyawuhlala ikhona laa nto ithi nankuya la sisi wayibe umntana nankuya la sisi uSangoma. Ngumthandazo wam sisi loba ingase uJoshlin angavela.
They were denied bail. Public anger swelled. Outside the courtroom, crowds gathered with posters that read, "Justice for Joshlin." But justice was far from certain, because without a body, and with a mother refusing to speak, the prosecution had to rely on something fragile: witnesses, memory, and the fragments of a child's last known day. In most missing child cases, the horror is in the uncertainty. But in this one, horror was in the certainty, in what people close to Joshlin had already begun to admit. The question wasn't just, where is Joshlin? It was, how long had this been in the works?
Or rather relaying to the court the plan that the 3 accused had, the roles that they played, including putting the mother as a central figure when it came to the plan of selling Joshlin for 20,000 rand to a Sangoma because of her distinct eyes and beautiful skin. However, now I'm joined by one of the people that have actually been standing in this queue since this morning, Caroline Peters, a GBV activist. Caroline, thank you so much for your time. But today we are expecting judgment to be handed. How are you feeling?
You know, I don't want to call it even conflicted, but I'm sad. It's a sad day because, yes, it's the end of the legal process, but Joshlin remains missing. We remain with a system that is broken, a system that has failed Joshlin, a system that if we look at today, it's about it's about systems, it's the construct of our systems, that's why. And Joshlin is one of many cases. You know, it's the vulnerable child that is not protected by our system. If we go back and we step back, there was a family that ultimately wanted to foster Joshlin. The system failed her. There was no systems in place to ensure. It was a drug-fueled day, like we said earlier, that led to the bartering. And like you say, 20,000 rand. Joshlin was sold for 20,000 rand in a drug-fueled day. So we speak about gendered violence, we speak about drug addiction, we speak about the socio-economic stances, we speak about poverty around this, and how children are vulnerable in these relations. And so, like you said, she had light skin, she had blue eyes, and she could be sold to a Sangoma. And so that is what we heard in testimony. But I want to say, my heart is sad. Where's Joshlin? We come to the end of the legal stand, but where's Joshlin in all this today?
On day 1 of the trial, Kelly Smith, Jacqueline Apollos and Stefano van Rijn all pleaded not guilty to kidnapping and trafficking Joshlin. They've now explained why. The 3 have described events leading up to Joshlin's disappearance but deny knowing what happened to her. Apollos and Smith explained that Joshlin and her older brother didn't go to school that day because their uniforms were dirty. They stayed home with Apollos while Smith went to work. Smith told the court she was a domestic worker and borrowed 50 rand from her employer to buy drugs. She says she went home around lunchtime and smoked tik with Apollos. At the time, Joshlin and her brother were in the bath washing themselves. She returned to work and came back at around 5 p.m. after borrowing money to buy more drugs, which she smoked with Apollos and Van Rijn. She didn't see Joshlin at home but says Apollos told her she was with her friends.
A short while later, my son Virgil returned home and I asked him if he had seen his sister, and his response was no. I then sent him to check at the park, but he later returned stating that there was no one there. I then began to panic and informed my neighbor Namsla that I could not find my child.
The community began searching for the little girl, and Smith says she became hysterical when Joshlin was still missing after some hours. She maintains she had nothing to do with her daughter's disappearance.
I do not have any knowledge of the offences for which I have been indicted, nor did I plan or have a common purpose when any other purpose to commit such offences. I deny all the allegations, plead not guilty to the charges against me, and put the state to the proof thereof.
What is clear is that all three accused smoked copious amounts of drugs on the day Joshlin disappeared. Apollos and Van Ryn outlined how police tortured them after they were arrested on the 4th of March last year.
They removed the handcuffs and ordered me to take off my sweater. I removed my sweater and they handcuffed me again. I was hanging in mid-air. A plastic bag was placed over my head while I was hit on my head, legs, feet and hands. I could not breathe.
They both say the pain was so severe that they thought they were going to die. The trial continues.
When a child goes missing, people talk, gossip, speculate. It's human nature. But what came out in the days that followed Joshlin's disappearance wasn't gossip. It was testimony, eyewitness, sworn, and it changed everything. One of the first to break the silence was Laurentia Lombard, a neighbor, a mother, and according to her, one of the last people Kelly confided in. She told the court that Kelly Smith said it plainly. "I sold my child to a Sangoma." The buyer wanted fair skin and her daughter's eyes, and it wasn't a one-time offer. Lombard said Kelly had been trying to sell Joshlin since at least August of the previous year, bargaining, negotiating, like she was offloading a used appliance. Except this wasn't a machine, it was a 6-year-old girl.
A crucial state witness in the ongoing case, Lombard, who was once a co-accused, was set to provide pivotal insight into the events surrounding Joshlin's disappearance. Last year, the state withdrew charges against her, and in exchange, she agreed to become a witness, testifying against the accused. Lombard, a mother of 4, took to the stand on Thursday, revealing how she came to know the 3 accused. She explained how she became acquainted with Kelly and Butta through her partner, who had previously sold drugs to them.
Butta ken ek as 'n jaar.
I know Butta for a year.
Ken ek as meer as 'n jaar.
Kelly, I know him more than a year.
As ek maar te koop het en ek het nie 'n lolly gehad nie.
If I would buy myself a tip and I don't have a lolly,
dan gaan ek tot daar by Kelly se huis.
Then I will go to Kelly's house.
En dan het ek gevra of sy nie miskien my lolly wil leen nie.
Then I would ask her, don't you want to borrow me a lolly?
For rook.
To smoke.
En after that het sy vir my gegee.
And that's after that she would give it to me.
En dan het ek gerook en het ek saam met haar gerook en sometimes dan het ek vir Butta ook gegee.
Then I would smoke and smoke with her. Sometimes I would also give Butta.
Dis hoe ek bevriend geraak het saam met hulle en val leer ken het.
That's how I became friends with them and learned to know them.
En vir Stefano ken ek nie gereed, maar ek ken vir hom deur as 6, 7 maande, 8 maande ken ek vir Stefano.
Lombard started her testimony by recounting events from Sunday, February 18th, the day before Joshlin went missing.
Die Sondagoggend het ek opgestaan.
The Sunday morning I got out of bed.
Het ek my huiswerk gedoen by die huis.
I did my home chores at my house.
En verder aan het ek kos gemaak vir my kinders en vir Janda.
Further on, I prepared food for my kids and for Ayanda.
Verder aan het ek omgegaan naar Kelly se huis, ek het kunnen samenvat.
Then I went to Kelly's house and taking the children with me.
Toen vat ik met 2 kinders, ga ik om naar Kelly se huis toe bij die dier, bij die rotsen, bij die rotsen.
Then I took my 2 kids, going to Ayana's house. I went past these rocks.
Sien ek oor kan die kanaal staan, een sfeerde bakkie, een bakkie in het.
During the plea explanation last week by Jacqueline Apollos, it was revealed that Lombard was at the house the day Joshlin went missing, further tying her to the critical moments before the disappearance.
She made a confession, and that confession will form part of the testimony, and it will form part of the evidence which will be led during the testimony.
Lombard's chilling testimony casts Smith as a central figure in Joshlin's disappearance. She told the court that the little girl's mother confided in her moments after the transaction was completed.
Kelly het vir my gesê, Rens, ek het nou 'n aangevang. Ek het nou my kind verkoop aan 'n Sangoma en ek het vir haar gevra, hoekom doen sy dit? Jong Rens, ek het geld nodig gehad en ek kry swaar. Boeta, hier is die geld wat die Sangoma gegee het. Hoeveel geld is dit? En Kelly sê, and put that as a 20,000 rand.
The plan, Lombard testified, was in full swing on Monday morning, 19th of February 2024. Kelly left for work, but not before giving strict instructions about Joshlin's fate.
Ek kom daar by Kelly se huis. Rikwan, Joshlin, Kelly, Buddha, Stefano was daar geweest bij de huis die ochtend. En verder aan voor Kelly weer toe gaan, noem Kelly aan Buddha. Buddha, 2 o'clock, moet jy vir Joshlin regel, want die mense kom 2 o'clock vir Joshlin kom haal. Sy gaan dan vir Joshlin iets inpak, soos 'n broek en 'n skepe, 'n sweater. En ek sien my eie oë, sy pak dit in 'n koolebek, 'n swart koolebek in. En voor sy loop, sê sy vir Buddha, Buddha, moenie vergeet nie, asseblief. 2 o'clock, ek gaan kom en vir Joshlin kom haal.
As promised, the long-awaited 2 o'clock arrived. Kelly, carrying a black cooler bag, was met by the same woman who had arrived the day before in a white polo. Lombard, standing behind rocks at a distance, saw Joshlin for the last time.
Die vrou klim uit. Dit was weer groen geweest. Dit was 'n groen doekjie op haar kop geweest. Dit was die spikkels op haar kop geweest. En dit was die bandjie wat op haar kop geweest het. En die dress was geweest op blik na shirts na kerkblous geweest, maar dit is groen. En Kelly en die vrou het nog gepraat, maak die vrou die deur oop en Kelly en Joshlin klim in die kar in. Sy vat die koolebek saam. En die vrou klim weer voor in die kar. En verder aan, daar ry die kar. Ek en Stefano en Buddha moet vir niemand sê nie, of vir die polisie mense sê vir niemand nie. Sy is die een wat gaan rapporteer by die polisiestasie dat haar kind vermis is.
Lombard also testified that Kelly then lied to authorities about the disappearance hours after the sale. When police came looking for the child at Lombard's house, Smith and Apollos continued their deception.
Toe kom Buddha eers na my toe en vra weer vir my van Joshlin. En toe kom Kelly ook daar aan. Kom sy adem die polisie daar aan. En sy vra vir my, Rens, is nie vir Joshlin gesien nie. Nee, Kelly, hoekom vra jy vir my? Because why, sy weet waar het jy my jou kind gemaak, hoekom sê jy nie? Hoekom sê jy nie vir die polisie waar het jy my jou kind gemaak nie?
Lombard told the court that Smith offered her and her co-accused money for their silence.
Sy gaan vir eens, gaan sy R1,000 gee. En vir Stefano gaat sy gee R1,200. En die ander jaar dat oor is, gaat sy en Boeta deel onder mekaar. En verder aan, het ek vir Kelly gesê.
The story deepened when a local pastor took the stand. He claimed Kelly had also approached him, offering to sell her children for 20,000 rand, roughly $1,100. When he didn't take the bait, she offered a discount. This was no panic decision, no desperate move. This was planned. Then came the teacher. She testified that Kelly told her Joshlin had been placed inside a shipping container, headed for West Africa, just days before the girl vanished. Let that sink in. Your child is gone. The world is searching. And the mother tells a teacher, she's in a container. That's not grief. That's knowledge.
Day 8 of the trial was full of explosive revelations. The court heard that Smith allegedly made an alarming statement in August 2023 about her intention to sell her children for 20,000 rand to certain individuals.
As hulle hierdie keer kom en hulle het nie die volle bedrag van 20,000 rand, gaan sy tevrede wees met 5,000 rand. Sy sê verder, volgende jaar Januarie of Februarie, jy gaan met jou eie oë sien wat in Middelpos en dies wil gaan gebeur. Dit gaan lyk soos 'n movie scene van karre, voetgangers en mense wat soek, maar hulle sal niks vind nie, omdat het die kind ver weg sal laat vat.
In another chilling twist, Edna Mart, a grade 1 teacher, revealed that Smith allegedly confided in her about an unsettling phone call she had received after Joshlin's disappearance. Smith allegedly claimed that a Nigerian man had told her that her child was being shipped in a container to West Africa.
Haar eerste opmerking was sy baie sag gepraat en op dit het sy my genoem juffrou. Ek wil vir u iets konfidensieel vertel. Sy het oproep ontvang van 'n Nigeriese man en dat hierdie persoon aan haar genoem het dat sy moet gou slap, dat haar kind op 'n boot is binne in 'n container en dat hulle op pad is na Wes-Afrika. Ek het wel gevra, het u dit by die polisie aangemeld? Haar antwoord aan my was dat, juffrou, ek is bang, want hulle wil my seermaak, die Saldanha mense. Het sy in 'n baie sagter stemtoon aan my genoem, onthou net.
The prosecution presented all of it, the witnesses, the inconsistencies, the messages. What they didn't have was Joshlin. No body, no definitive physical evidence, just a chorus of damning words from people who had nothing to gain and everything to fear. Even more disturbing was the lingering possibility she might still be alive, hidden, shipped, used. Because when you sell a child to a ritualist, the options aren't many, but they are monstrous. And yet, some witnesses asserted that Kelly was a good mother in spite of the violence and drug abuse regularly occurring in the home. Which begs the question, was Joshlin taken to resolve a debt with a dealer? Or was Kelly that deep into her addiction she had arranged the sale herself? Either way, the stories didn't add up, and Joshlin's whereabouts are still unknown.
Joshlin Smith trial saw an emotionally charged moment in the Western Cape High Court as Kelly Smith, the mother of the missing 6-year-old girl, wept openly in the accused box. The emotional testimony of Carlin Zegers, Kelly's former employer, painted a complex picture of Kelly's life. Carlin spoke about Kelly's love for her children and how, despite her struggles, she remained a devoted mother. Zegers' testimony proved too much for Kelly, prompting the court to adjourn briefly to allow her time to compose herself.
Kelly het baie liefdevolle kinders en sy het haar kinders mooi groot gemaak. Ek het vir Kelly jammer gekry en ek het gesien waardeur het sy gegaan. In haar swakheid was sy 'n goeie ma vir haar kinders.
The trial has brought to light the complexity of Kelly's life, struggles with domestic violence involving both Joshlin's father, Josh MK, and her boyfriend, Jacqueline Apollos, as well as her battles with substance abuse.
Sy die maatskaplike werker sou die kind saam met Kelly gebring het na my toe wanneer Joshlin Kelly beklei het. Die verhouding tussen Kelly en Boeta was aan die begin baie goed. En later in die tyd toe dit begin is lyk of Boeta en Kelly ook beklei, want Kelly het soms met haar hoede aangekom. Die een keer wat sy reep toe gegaan het, wat Joshlin na baba was, wat hulle die kind by my kom los het. Want voor die reep was sy eers by die huis vir women and children abuse en ons was bekommerd oor die kind dalk iets sal oorkom en Kelly het nie ondersteuning gehad van haar familie nie.
This led to the Andrews family taking steps to adopt Joshlin in 2018, less than a year after she was born. Natasha Andrews revealed that she and Kelly went to a social worker to begin the adoption process, but Kelly and Joshlin's father, Josh, did not agree.
Ek en ma het al na die maatskaplike werker toe gegaan. Ons kon nie voortgaan met enige papierwerke nie, want haar ouers wou nie instem nie, dis Josh en Kelly. Kelly se omstandighede was nie so goed nie. Ons kan vir haar beter voorsien het as wat haar ma sou kon. In veiligheid.
While police officers testified in the first week of the trial that Kelly did not display emotions, neighbor Namhla Tinzi, who assisted her in the search for Joshlin at that early evening of the 19th of February last year, offered a different perspective.
Ngela xesha siya eDiasville wayekhala. Kodwa ngosesesibuyile ke ngusipha Peter Mokaba Street engasakhali.
Startling new revelations about Smith's behavior were heard. Testimony from her former employer's daughter, Kelly Zegers, cast further doubt on Smith's actions following her daughter's disappearance. Zegers described her growing concern after noticing a dramatic shift in Kelly's demeanor just hours after Joshlin went missing.
En daai woensdagoggend het ek nog so saam met Kelly aangegaan. Kelly, paraat asseblief, wat gaan aan? Vir wie beskerm sy? Van ek kon sien iets, sy sê self nie. En ek het ook vir gesê alles wat ek kan onthou of mense wat op plek loop of goed is, sy moet vir die speerders die goed sê, sy moet openlik wees.
The day after Joshlin's disappearance, and as the investigation into her disappearance progressed, Zegers continued to press Kelly for answers about her child's possible whereabouts. Kelly's response, however, raised more questions than answers.
En sy het nog aangepraat van foreigners, maar ek het nie nog baie met hy. Want sy het net gesê van foreigners en haar kind is nog uit die plekkie, ons moet in Marikana gaan soek. Sy voel haar kind is nog in Marikana.
Did you ask her? How do you know this? How do you know your child is not yet gone? She's in Marikana.
Ja, sy het gesê haar moederlike instink sê vir haar.
Zegers told the court that despite her own worry, Kelly appeared detached.
Ek het my nou heel aan by haar gekyk van sy doen nie slaapwerk en ek kon nie. En ek kon nie eens geëet het nie, maar Kelly het geëet. Ek weet nie van gevoel amper soos as my kind wat weg is. Van ek was soos in die middelman van die groepe wat gesearch het. Van daar was 'n groep wat in Middelbos gesearch het en daar was 'n groep wat op die duine gesearch het. Nou elke keer dan gee die ene groep feedback, laat ek vir die ander ene sê.
Despite the mounting concerns about Joshlin's disappearance, Zegers says that although the search for Joshlin was in full swing, with the little girl's face circulating on social media, Smith seemed strangely unaffected.
Ek wil Kelly laat weet sy moet klaar maak. Ek gaan vir haar haal, mos my Marley niet omdraai by my. Ek gaan vir haar haal, dan gaan ons die onderhoud by my huis doen. Al het vir haar toegeonder vir haar, maar ek en dan zo moest vir haar gewys het, Kelly. Dat was nou eintlik die ding wat ons vir haar gewys het, stoor dit eraan of iets.
The previous testimony painted a complex and troubling picture of Smith's behavior. Despite her struggles with addiction, it has been claimed that she deeply loved her children. 2 months after her arrest, she requested to see her 2 other children.
Umama wavuya kakhulu ukubona abantwana bakhe. Ndiyakhumbula uRachel ebaleka esiya kumamakhe. Uye naye waba emotional kodwa ezama ukuziphilisa. uRikwini yena kwelinye icala ebebuzibamba. To a point after encouragement kaNonhlalonhle uye waya kumamakhe wamonga. Incoko yakhe ke ibe nayo umama ebijolise ukujonga uba bahleli njani baphetheke kanjani nokuba banjani. Nokuba naye uyabakhumbula and uzawubuya kwakhona.
So now the question wasn't just what happened to Joshlin. It was this. Did someone purchase her for a ritual sacrifice? Was she exported like a commodity? Or is she still somewhere? The first time I saw it, I couldn't speak. Joshlin Smith's home wasn't a home at all. It was a collection of rusted sheet metal, crumbling bricks, and a blanket hanging in place of a door. She lived here, slept here, dreamed here, in the space where rodents scurry and daylight struggles to enter. The press called it a shack. But that word is too kind. This was neglect, given structure. Joshlin shared this space with her siblings, a mother strung out and spiraling, a boyfriend who saw her as a commodity, and neighbors who heard things but said nothing until it was too late. This was the ecosystem that raised her, and ultimately erased her. South Africa has no shortage of homes like this, corrugated skeletons of forgotten families, and yet we continue to pretend that poverty is a personal failing, not a symptom of a much sicker machine. This wasn't just Joshlin's story. It was the story of a system that lets 6-year-olds rot in plain sight, then asks, how could this happen? Well, let me answer that. It happens when a child's cries go unheard because she doesn't speak English, when the smell of trauma blends into the stench of poverty and no one flinches, when officials only show up for cameras, not for care. Inside that shack, there was no fridge, no electricity, the toilet, a hole, and yet, somewhere in the chaos, Joshlin still smiled, still went to school, still held on to some speck of wonder. And that's what breaks me the most. She didn't know the world had already decided she was expendable, and neither did we, not until it was too late. It's easy to demonize a mother, to call her evil and move on. But if we stop there, we miss the monster behind the monster. This is generational rot, systemic decay. This is what happens when a society becomes numb to its own children screaming.
Ah, your child is shouting, screaming. Where's my mommy? Yeah. You know the heartbroken thing is that child is looking for no one, not for one of us who's supporting this case. Yes. That child where she is looking for that woman. Yes. For that woman called Kelly. Yeah. Who's the mother? What is it what the child calls first? How when he's in trouble, ma'am, he calls to his mother.
We are not feeling well. Because the mother, I think she knows the truth. You can't gain a weight while you're losing a child. Why she's gaining a weight? while you're losing a child. If you lose a child, most you have a stress. You're supposed to lose the weight, but instead of she's gaining the weight and she's happy most. I think Kelly Smith, she knows the truth.
Take us back to February last year. You told me that you, as well as the community of Middlepost, were part of the search. What did this do for, especially in the area, people were concerned and worried about children even now?
Yeah, we did research on me last year. We searched the child. We were busy there researching all the Tapak Bay. I don't know what place we called. But the mother of child, she was not worrying while we were searching the child. Even the stepfather, he was not worried. Instead of searching the child, when we supposed to go and search the child, when we asked him why we don't search the child, the response was, I'm tired because I was searching the child for the whole day. Why are you tired while we search your child? Why he was tired?
So tomorrow we're going to see sentencing starting in the High Court in the White City Multipurpose Centre. And by Thursday, the three of them, as well as everybody concerned, will know what their sentences are after they were found guilty already. What is it you hope will come from the court process?
We want life sentence for mother. Okay. We want the court life sentence. Life sentence, yes.
May 2025. Saldanha Bay's Western Cape Circuit Court became ground zero for a child's fate and a mother's defense. Prosecutor Zelda Swanepoel laid bare the charges: planned trafficking, a child sold for rituals, for money. Witness after witness took the stand. Laurentia Lombard recounted Kelly's words. They want her eyes, they want her skin. The pastor spoke of price negotiations. The teacher confirmed the story of a shipping container with Joshlin inside. Kelly finally testified. Her voice was monotone, no tears, no guilt, just excuses. Jacquin offered confusion. Stiveno shrugged it off as a joke. Judge Nathan Erasmus laid judgment plain. Cold, calculated, remorseless. Intent was undeniable. Their verdict came soon after. Life in prison for trafficking, plus 10 more years for kidnapping. The three were also listed on South Africa's Child Protection Register. Her words pierced the room. Kelly, you made our lives hell on earth. I feel like my heart has been ripped from my body.
We heard that emotional victim impact statement. A letter, it sounded like you were addressing your daughter. You opened by saying that, Kelly, you came into our lives and you've broken us. Talk to us about how you're feeling going into the sentencing today.
I'm not feeling so good. It's hard for me. She's my daughter. She will always be my daughter. But what must happen, because I don't know where my grandchild is, and I won't rest until I find my grandchild.
You said on Judgment Day that you long for your granddaughter, and we are nearly 16 months in, and you said that you were going to speak to Kelly. She promised that she'll speak to you, or rather, she will speak to the court or come openly with the truth. However, that has not happened.
That's not happened, and I'm very disappointed in that, because I asked her and she promised me and she broke that promise. So I don't know when will she talk, when Mother Heart will open and talk about the child, so that I will go to the length of earth to go and get my grandchild.
I mean, throughout the proceedings, there's been a lot of talk, but however, yesterday you addressed the fact that at some point you wanted to adopt her eldest son. However, she never agreed to that.
Yes, I did want to adopt him, and when Joshlin was born and she was with us, we also wanted to adopt her, but she didn't want us to adopt her children. And I feel if she let the Andrews family keep Joshlin, she would be better off with him.
In the probation report, Kelly blamed the witnesses, including her lawyer, for the reason that she sits now in the accused box. What are your thoughts about that?
I can't answer that, because my feeling is she is guilty. She's guilty, and She can't blame anybody else about what happened. She was the person that did the deed.
I know that today is a bittersweet moment. We are coming to the close of the criminal trial with sentencing. However, you say that you still long for your daughter. What would be justice for you?
Really, I don't feel any sentence that they get will bring my grandchild back. I don't think so. So, like the judge said, life imprisonment, maybe she will talk. Maybe she will come to her senses and talk and get a lighter sentence.
How is the family unit now, 16 months, nearly 16 months following the disappearance of your granddaughter?
We are broken. We are broken because the children is not together. The son and the daughter is not together. The son is with me and the daughter is with her father. So we are really broken. I just get the daughter at vacation times so that she can be with us. But we are broken.
Do the other children know what happened to their sibling?
They know, because the little one always tells me her sister is gone, her sister was stolen. So they know.
You live with the eldest, her son. How has it been like the couple of months living with him and also maneuvering around the fact that he lives with this reality that his mother is in prison, his sister is missing, and you're saying that his younger sister is living elsewhere?
It is hard because I have to, I can't watch TV because I don't want him to see the stuff on TV. So I can't watch TV when he's at home. But he's doing great. He's doing great. I have all the support from the doctors there and the social worker there and the psychologist there. So he's doing good.
We heard yesterday that there was the Andrews family that had initiated to adopt Joshlin months after she was born. And you said in your victim impact statement that perhaps had she agreed with that process, we might not be in the situation that you as a family find yourselves in.
That's true, because Natasha and her husband, they are good parents. They loved her like their own. So it would have been better if she just gave Joshlin to them.
And before I let you go, for somebody that had a hand in the disappearance of Joshlin, or even has Joshlin, what would you say to them right now?
If you can please just bring my child back, or just let me know where she is, where I can find her. I will go there. I don't care where you are, but I will go there and I will go and get my grandchild so that I can get closure.
So you're saying that at this present moment, even with the sentencing, there's no closure?
There's no closure. There's no closure because she's still missing.
The following statement provided by Joshlin's father, Jose MK, has been auto-translated from Afrikaans to English by 11 Labs.
Have you prepared your other daughter? Have you pre-prepared her about what happened today and what's going to happen? Does she know that she's not going to see her mother for a very long time?
No, I have not spoken with her yet. Talked about herself and her sister. Because as a father, I feel she is still too young and too small.
Het sy or Joshlin gevra?
That is what she every day from every year ask. And then I have to tell my child, I do not know where your sister's house is.
Do not know who she looks like.
Okay, but does she understand that? She doesn't understand it.
Okay. I feel very uncomfortable now because I don't know where and with whom my child is. And who she has stayed with.
I also feel very uncomfortable with my child
although it lives as a person, it is still a very young cousin who still needs to grow. One day, but as her own support, stand up and start for herself.
Josh, how do you move on with your life knowing that your child is out there?
It is now very uncomfortable. Because the fact is just that I, with my youngest child, understand, the teacher knows, but I really don't know now
where exactly the guy is not.
And it seems this stems from me.
Are you at least happy with the sentence? Do you think that they deserved more? Is there also something that you would have wanted Kelly to say?
So what I want to talk to him about with you is that, just here, I feel on my just to know the truth in and how and why she does it.
In that courtroom, justice didn't heal. It tore open wounds that can't close.
Even now the community feels like we must burn this, we must burn it up because they say, it's people, I don't know, with some of our friends or for what, that comes through that window. They come and smoke inside. So the community, all of us feels like today we're gonna burn this thing out. This, of us. We want justice. You can feel, you can hear there. We want justice for Joshlin.
Outside the courtroom, tragedy played out again, just in ashes. Hours after Kelly Smith and the others were convicted, someone set fire to Joshlin's last known home, a deliberate act of erasure. Monique Kekana was arrested at the scene, charged with arson, and swiftly released on bail by May 5th. She later told media, "I did it for all the mothers, because Kelly knows where the child is," she said. "I was also drunk, but I have no regrets."
They further add that she was the one that actually rather admitted to have torched that home. Monique has just come out of the Vredenburg Magistrate Court and granted 500 Rand bail. Monique, how are you feeling following being in prison, or rather incarcerated, for about 2 weeks?
I feel a bit happy now that I'm out. I was a little bit scared. And I thank God that I made it through, because I thought I would never make it through, because I had a lot about Paul's myself. But I thank God that I made it through.
We heard inside court that the reason why, rather from the state, the reason why you torched the home was because you wanted justice for Joshlin. Do you still believe that justice will be served when it comes to the case of Joshlin?
Yes, it will. It will be served. I still believe so.
We heard inside from the state saying that you admitted to the first responders. However, your lawyer indicated that you will be pleading not guilty to the charges of arson.
Yes, I will, my beloved. I will.
How are you feeling now, having been arrested for the arson of the torching of Kelly's home?
I feel a bit relieved. I was very scared. I was I don't know the lie, I was very scared. And I did tell the other prisoners, I did it because I'm also a mother. That's why I did what I did, even though I was a little bit drunk and so, but I did it.
Is there any sort of regret having spent some time in prison for about 2 weeks?
No, I don't have any regrets, because what I did it for Joshlin, for the justice of the child. I don't have regrets. We are still struggling. We don't even know since now. We don't even know where she is. And no, not one of the family members will know nothing. So we did touch me a lot of what Kelly did to her own child. And we as family, we are still looking for our Monteshka Kakana. I'm thinking about my aunt who also passed away after not even knowing what happened to her daughter, Monteshka Kakana.
The case against Monique Kekana, who stands accused of arson, has been postponed to the 25th of June for further investigation, as both witness statements and a fire report are still outstanding.
In her plea explanation, Kelly Smith says her boyfriend, Jacquin Apollos, was present at their home when she last saw Joshlin there. Smith, Apollos, and a third co-accused, Stefano Van Rijn, have pleaded not guilty to charges of kidnapping and trafficking, which they are facing in connection with Joshlin's disappearance. The plea explanation was read out by her legal counsel.
Just after 12 o'clock midday, I borrowed 50 rand from Colin, which I had used to buy drugs. I went to my home and smoked the drugs with accused one. I noticed that both the children were still at home at that time. After smoking, I then proceeded back to work, which was at approximately 1 o'clock.
Smith says she frantically searched for little Joshlin after she realized she was missing.
Just before 5 o'clock, I borrowed another 200 rand from Colin and proceeded to my home. When I got home, accused number 1 and accused number 2 were present. I inquired from him or them as to the whereabouts of the children, and they responded by saying that Virgil was by his godfather and that Joshlin was playing around. I then inquired from the neighbor, Maputi, if she had seen Joshlin, and she said that the kids went to play at the park.
The state says Smith's version of events presented in the plea explanation are not consistent with her initial statement when she reported Joshlin's disappearance.
There was a mention that when Kelly arrived, she asked for where the child was, and she was told that the Rens, a lady they were smoking tech with, had sent the child to go look, to check on her own child, right, who was sleeping at a house nearby. But in his statement, he does not mention that the Rens was there. I mean, Rens asked the child. She also mentions that Rens was there earlier in the morning and they smoked. In the testimony of the police officers, it's not there.
Joshlin went missing from the Middle Post informal settlement in Saldanha more than a year ago, and the search to locate her is continuing.
In the aftermath, officials scrambled to draft tougher laws. The president vowed stronger protections, more oversight, more funding. But laws don't find missing children. Laws don't erase trauma. And laws don't resurrect the truth once it's burned into ash. Those closest to Joshlin who were responsible for her disappearance are now serving a lengthy sentence in prison. But the people who truly allowed this walk free, the enablers, the blind eyes, the system that only pays attention when a case trends. Joshlin became a headline, but she was never meant to be a lesson. She was meant to be a happy and carefree child. The investigation seemed to end when the trial concluded, and still no one knows what really happened to Joshlin Smith. No leads, no body, no verified sightings. Some believe her life ended the day she vanished. Others claim she was transported out of the province, maybe out of the country. One witness said she was told Joshlin was in a shipping container bound for West Africa. Another said she was sold to a tribal witch doctor for her eyes and skin. But the truth is, we don't know. And that, not knowing, is the sharpest cut of all. When the headlines fade and the next tragedy takes center stage, who will remember Joshlin Smith? Will she become another name on a cold case list? Another statistic buried beneath reform bills and promises of change? Or will her shadow stay with us, reminding us what happens when poverty collides with apathy, when innocence meets exploitation? She was 6 years old, and she smiled through the unfortune of her life. That smile should haunt this country until no more children go missing without a trace. Come along with me as I review more unsolved cases and bizarre mysteries. Like and share this for those who still believe in coincidence, and don't forget to subscribe, because the truth doesn't knock twice.